Okay, tonight we're talking about foods. Everybody's interested in foods. And but to get foods in perspective, let me try to emphatically get across to you that foods is only 5% of our energy. So when we talk about foods, we're only talking about 5% of the energy that we run on. In other words, the energy that you have to use in order for your body to carry out your daily routines. 56% of that energy comes from breathing. 24% of the energy you run on comes from rest. And 15% of the energy you run on comes from water. All right? So again, keep that in perspective. What is the reason why we need foods? If 95% of my energy that I need to run on comes from breathing, rest, and water, why do I need to eat? Now, most people act like 95% of their energy is coming from food. So why do I need to breathe? Why do I need to drink water? Why do I need to go to bed at night? Right? That's the hardest thing to get across to people. I just can't seem to get my water in, or I just can't remember to breathe, or to, I'm breathing, but to remember to breathe deeply and to do it efficiently, I just can't seem to fit that into my time schedule. And of course, the problem, the overall problem we're having is that our mindset is on food. We really believe that we run on food. And a lot of that concept comes from the fact that we go to the gas pump and we put this gas in, and then it burns up the gas and we're running, right? How many of you believe that our car runs on gasoline? How does it run on gasoline? How does your car run on gasoline? What if there is no air filter, or the air filter was all clogged up? Would your car run on gas? No, will it? If there's no air mixed with that gasoline, your car won't go nowhere. It'll just sputter. So now you know why a lot of people are sputtering. They're dumping a lot of fuel in their cakes. Go, putting a lot of food in, but they don't have enough air to run on, make it run. Okay? So again, that's one of the reasons we put fuel in our heating units to heat our houses and the air conditioned things and so on and so forth, and we just don't consider the importance of the breathing or the air part that's involved in that. So we do not eat food for the purpose of running on it. Let me explain why we need food, and then how our body processes it and uses it so that we can get what we need to get from it. 5% of your food 5% of your energy comes from food, but 95% of your food goes towards providing raw materials for the cells that make up your body. Your cells are changing. Depending on your age, they're changing every so often. And as they wear out, they have to be replaced. So if you're 20 years of age, your cells have to be replaced every 6 months on the average. Not all of that is happening at one time. Or you'd be like some of these snakes. You ever see these snakes that shed? They just step out of their skin. We'd kind of look kind of scaly if we were that way, wouldn't we? But see, some of your cells, not all of them, every part of your body, not all of them are being changed at the same time, but usually it's about 1/4 of your cells are undergoing change or exchange at any given time. And so if you're 20 years of age, that's every 6 months on the average. If you're 40, it's every year. If you're 60, it's every year and a half. And 80 every 2 years. You're supposed to get 120 years out of your body. All right? So food supplies the raw materials so that your body has what it needs to make those exchanges. When a cell runs its battery out, your cells are like batteries in a car or anything, and they have a lifespan, and as you rest them every night and you use them through breathing and everything, so on and so forth, they get tired and they wear out. They run down just like a battery. And just before they run down, they divide and leave an offspring. And as soon as that offspring gets to a certain point, the old cell breaks off and it comes out your urine. And you know what we call those little critters? Those old worn out dead batteries? Albumin. That's that 4M on your numbers, those of you I'm testing. That's that 4M. That means you're exchanging your cells. If you're not, that could be some serious trouble. Cancer would be one of them, if you're not exchanging those cells like you're supposed to. Okay, so this is what the body's doing all the time. So you're eating for the purpose of supplying the body those raw materials that it needs to make healthy offspring cells. Now what if they're not healthy cells? What if the cells are not healthy? Well, if you're 60, they're unhealthy for a year and a half. All right? See, the older you are, the longer it takes to replace those old worn out cells that aren't doing their job. So that's why you have to be patient with your body until you get new generations of cells that are able to get more energy, to get more energy out of the air and rest and out of the water and out of the breathing. Okay, if it's an unhealthy cell, it doesn't breathe very good. All right? So the cell must be healthy in order to breathe good. Your cells have to be recharged every night, like a battery. They have to be charged up because you run your cell batteries down during the day, and it has to be recharged at night between 10 and 2, or with the time change, 11 and 3. So if you don't recharge your batteries every night, you're going to run them down sooner. And they're not going to breathe as well. They're not going to give you as much energy. They're not going to produce the energy that you need to run on. And so we go after some Twinkies or Snickers to kick the old cells a little bit. Come on, I need more out of you. So we stimulate them. See, to try that coffee is a good one. The coffee will really kick those worn out batteries. But it ends up running them down even faster than they should, because the ability of your body to exchange cells, and remember our subject is we're talking about why do we need food. This is part of what we're trying to answer first. We need food to supply the raw materials. Your body is born with reserves, enough reserves to last you 120 years if your parents are healthy. And you're supposed to use a certain amount of those reserves each year to get 120 years out of them. But when you don't put in enough food, of the right kind of food, to replace what you're using each day, those won't last you 120 years. So that shortens your life. Okay? So food is supplying not only what you need each day, and what your cells need as they are being replaced, but you're talking about the longevity and how long you're going to get out of your body. Okay? So food is very important to longevity, as well as how much energy you're going to get from the air and breathing and rest that you're going to give your body to do what you need to do with your body. Now, those cells, as they wear out, they have to be replaced. Now, the older you are, then the less food you need to eat. Is that not right? See, if your cells are changing every 6 months when you're 20, and when you're 60, they're changing every year and a half, and it's food that you need to replace those cells.
Need less food to get old.
Mm-hmm. So
now I find it out after I got too old.
So we need less food the older we are. Now again, our biggest problem is we still think we're running on food, and we're not. See, our computer has problems with it. It goes tilt, tilt. What'd you say, Don? You know, it's just hard to get away and get into our computer that we do not run on food. You didn't run on the food you ate today. Shouldn't have. What you ran on today was breathing, rest, and water. And you'll understand more what I mean by that as I go into how the body processes the foods. Okay, so number one, the reason why we need food is because it supplies the raw materials that make up the solid part of our body, the cells that make up the solid part of our body. And that does not mean we're not supposed to enjoy eating. We are supposed to enjoy eating the things that we put in our body that it needs to be healthy and that make healthy cells. All right? I believe our Creator intended us to enjoy eating food. So, before we go into how the body processes foods, we need to define food. Okay? Anything that does not come from a seed is not a food. Anything that does not come from a seed, S-E-E-D, not S-E-A. Okay? Anything that, in other words, where it reproduces after its own kind, that's a seed. That qualifies as a food. So does salt qualify as a food? Does salt come from a seed? Comes from the sea, some of it, but not from the seed, does it? Did you ever put a little piece of salt in the soil and then water it and see it sprout? I've never seen a salt sprout. Okay? So we want to make sure that it comes from a seed. That's the first qualification of a food. Your body cannot process anything that you put in it that does not come from a seed, other than things that are what we call ionic form, or some things it will handle that are in colloidal form. These are two forms of mineral, what we call mineral ions. And they're just something that the blood can use. But for anything to become a part of our body, that makes up the cells of our body, must come from a seed. So anything that does not come from a seed cannot replace the cells that make up your body when they wear out. It's very important to realize. Now there's another qualification to these seed foods. We can't cook these seeds too much, things that come from a seed. When we cook it too much, we destroy the enzymes in the foods, and they no longer can be processed by your body when you do that. So anything that's cooked over 120 degrees is dead seed food. Now, I'm not talking about taste now, okay? But as far as your body being able to process it, it can't. So you eat food that's been cooked over 120 degrees, seed food, and all you're doing is using your body as a food compactor. Okay? Know what a food compactor does? And then some people have to grunt to get it out. It's a food compactor. You see, you gave nothing to your body that it can use to replace the cells when they wear out. That's the bottom line. So why would we want to eat it? So, any foggy idea why we want to eat something when all it's going to do is just, be pushed through the system without getting anything that our cells can use? Why would you want to spend your money on that? I mean, why spend money on something that will not give any raw materials that your cells can use to be healthy with? It's got to be something besides need, right? Must be it's a desire. Maybe an addiction. Could be an addiction, but it's definitely not needful for as far as our body is concerned. And another thing to keep in mind when we're talking about foods is don't cook it too much. Again, that's why you want to steam your foods, because water never gets over 100 degrees, okay? So you can steam. Steam never gets over 100 degrees. So that's the way you want to heat your foods, is steam them. Then you won't kill the enzymes that are in the food and not give anything for your body to process. So steaming or raw, those are the two main ways that you want to get your foods. All right? Now, another thing we don't want to do is we don't want to take things out that our Creator put in there. When you take a food that comes from a seed, and it comes from good soil, and it's the way our Creator intended, it has a balance of enzymes and nutrients in there that need one another, that complement one another, so that your body can easily process it when you bring it through the digestive system. And man, in his attempt to make things last longer, so they can haul them in longer distance without spoiling, have taken certain factors out of those foods. We call it processing. And as a result, they don't have those cofactors, those enzymes in there that are needed for the body to be able to process it. And so the end result again is we used our bodies as a food compactor. Because all it can do is chew it up, break it down a little bit, and push it out. And all we got was some stimulation, some calories, but nothing got to the bank. Nothing went on deposit so that your body would have some reserves to use to replace the cells when they wear out. So some of them are still there, hanging on, sick and diseased, and they don't have enough in the reserves to replace the cells, so that you got an old cell just sitting in there rotting and smelling and decaying. And the reason is you don't have enough reserves in the bank for that cell to replace it with another cell. And a lot of and one of the main reasons is we overcook our foods, and then we take out the goodies. Like you have white bread. What have you got in white bread that your body can use to take to the bank? Nothing. Even a pig can't handle white bread. It'd rather eat its own waste. Much more tastier. They're scavengers anyways. And scavengers eat just about anything. They'll eat dead rats with maggots. I mean, that pig sees that go around there, he'll just gobble that up in a minute. And you give him a dead rat with maggots all over it and a piece of white bread, he'll leave that bread sit there for 20 years. And it'll sit there for 20 years because it's embalmed. No way you can do anything with that. You know? So see, that's not a food. All right? And we wouldn't, I mean, you take some of these guys that got these $1 million worth of horses, they won't feed them bread. You think they'll feed them bread? Those horses will die within 6 months feeding them bread. They just use horse sense then. Where's human sense? We need a little human sense here. We're putting things in our body that are dead. And then we wonder why our body's not working right. And why these cells are tired and they can't even breathe anymore and they can't even rest at night. And, you know, and things like that. And we just wonder, well, why is this thing breaking down? So you can imagine what would be happening to our bodies if 56% of our energy was coming from food instead of breathing. Where would we be? The way we've been eating all our life. We wouldn't be here today if that was really true. If it was really true that we were running on foods as much as people are eating, then that would be that would be the case. Now, another thing we do, which is another way of preserving our foods, is we add preservatives to the seed foods. And when you put preservatives in it, what are preservatives going to do to the food? That's going to be a problem with processing it. What's a preservative? You put salt in the food. How does it preserve the food? Why doesn't it spoil? Do you ever wonder why?
Keeps the oxygen from it.
Right, it ties up the oxygen. It deactivates the enzymes that are in the foods. And you need those enzymes in order to process it, as we'll learn in a minute. So all they're doing is embalming the food when they preserve it. When someone's dead, what do? You embalm them, but most people, according to statistics, are already balmed. They don't even have to use embalming fluid. Now I wonder why. It's probably because of all these embalmed foods they're eating. They've embalmed their bodies. And we're not supposed to be embalmed until we're dead. But there can be a lot of parts of our body that are embalmed already. That's why they don't poor circulation in a lot of places, because they're so solid and preserved, they can't function. So a lot of the foods that come from a seed are embalmed. And then when you eat them, there's nothing that you can get out of them, because your body is not equipped to be able to take anything out of there that can't get rid of that embalming fluid, that's preservative, get it out of the way, and then work on the foods and get the goodies out of it. It can't do it. Now, what is the ultimate abuse of your body? When you get something from a seed that's been cooked too much, preserved, and processed. What would be a good example? White bread. White bread is embalmed, it's preserved, it's been cooked. I mean, what do you think the temperature was when they baked that? 350 degrees centigrade. Okay? That's pretty hot. How would you feel at about 120 degrees? Just 120, how would you feel? If it got to 120 degrees out there, how would you think you feel? Oh, look at that poor bread, poor food. If it gets kicking around saying, boy, give me more heat, I feel great, you know. Man, it's just ready to limp. It's getting limp, you know. It's just ready to die. And then you put that in your body, and you think your body's going to be able to get anything out of it that it can use to replace these cells when they wear out? No. And then we wonder why our body just seems not being able to do what it's supposed to be doing, see? But it takes even years. Look at how many years we got away with that, supposedly. Aren't you glad you were at least breathing? With some of that stuff, you put some of that peanut butter in your mouth, that can stop your breathing. That's why you have to mix a little jelly in there so at least it can get down. But peanut butter, they roasted it, right? And tremendous amounts of preservatives in nuts, peanuts. So they cooked it to death. They, you know. And there's a lot of preservatives in it. So you see, it's just nothing. It's not a food. See, what qualifies as a food? It comes from a seed. It hasn't been overcooked. It hasn't been processed. In other words, nothing's been added to or taken away. And the way I look at things, our Creator, when He made things, and He says in Genesis that He made every seed-bearing fruit and seed to be our food. And as far as I'm concerned, when He does something, He does it good and perfect. And I don't think He created man to improve on it. You know? He was just not to abuse it. We're not supposed to add or take away from what He's done. And when we do, we're asking for trouble. You know? And that's part of our trouble. Man's got too smart. Oh, you didn't need this in here, God. You know, this gets stinky too quick. You made a mistake putting in it. It's just like a lot of the doctors think that he made a mistake when he put an appendix and tonsils in here. We don't need those things. I mean, we haven't found any use for them at all. That's what they said for years and years and years. Yet they're the ones that, yet the tonsils produce the antibiotics that keep infection from taking place up here. And your appendix keeps your colon from getting infected and keeps it deodorized and everything. Don't you miss that? Sometimes? Oh, we don't need that. See, when we start questioning our Creator and start altering what He's done, then we're going to get into trouble, and that's why we're in trouble. We're doing things to what we get from seeds, and the body can't process it, and our body's becoming sick and diseased as a result of it. And we're giving all kinds of names to it, and trying to treat the names instead of dealing with the cause and deal with what we're doing wrong in our lifestyle. So we want to, first of all, make the decision to only put things into our body that comes from a seed that hasn't been overcooked, processed, and preserved. Might have to pay a little bit more. Work a little bit harder at keeping it from spoiling.